Today on Public Eye News, NMU Environmental Science ranked 36th in the nation, and ex-priest pleads guilty to abuse in the Upper Peninsula from the 80s.
Later in the show, Joe Sigourney will have your weather forecast for the weekend, and Devontae Stein will have your sports update. Hi, I'm Max Stevens.
And I'm Marin Parks, and this is your final edition of Public Eye News. On April 5th, Study.com released its rankings for the top 50 environmental science bachelor degree programs across the nation. And on that list was our very own Northern Michigan University, coming in at 36th. According to a press release prepared by Jill Vermeulen and Christy Evans and published in Northern Today earlier this morning, hundreds of schools across the nation were considered for this ranking, making Northern's placement even more impressive. NMU's bachelor's degree in environmental science program is so successful due to the combination of outstanding professors alongside the naturalistic location of campus that provides students with many opportunities for hands-on study and a variety of study abroad opportunities for learning about environmentalism around the world. And sad news was announced yesterday as the planning committee for the Menominee Waterfront Festival announced that all events except for the Jim Hodge Waterfront Run, which has its own planning committee, are officially canceled for the 2021 season. WNMU-TV 6 reports that the committee for the event, which is a staple for many families in and around the area, postponed canceling the event for as long as possible, but once the deadlines for contracting vendors and entertainers drew to a close, a decision had to be made. The committee announced that due to the capacity for outdoor events being only 300 people, the event was too large to be properly regulated and therefore couldn't be held. Though this cancellation is unfortunate for many families who make a tradition of going to the Waterfront Festival and plan trips and vacations around it, remember, this by no means means the festival is gone forever. And a case regarding a former priest from Michigan's Upper Peninsula in the 1980s has come to a close as of yesterday, April 22nd, as the ex-priest pleaded guilty to 4 counts of criminal sexual conduct in Ontonagon County. The man who previously served as a priest in Marquette was removed from his position by the Diocese of Marquette in 1988 and subsequently left the state. The criminal charges against the ex-priest came to light in January of 2020, at which time the man was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The 75-year-old man was sentenced to at least 8 years in prison before he would be eligible for parole and is expected to make a similar plea deal on May 3rd in Dickinson County. Though these charges cannot undo the physical and mental trauma caused by the ex-priest, it is the hope of Attorney General Dana Nessel that the abuser will be being brought to justice will provide some sense of comfort for the man's victims.
The Michigan Court of Appeals has affirmed the conviction of former state trooper Mark Bessner for a 2017 incident in which he tased a teenager, leading to the teenager's death. While on patrol in a Detroit neighborhood in 2017, 15-year-old Damon Grimes drove an ATV near the car of Bessner and a partner. Believing that Grimes was armed, Bessner fired his taser, resulting in Grimes crashing his ATV into a pickup truck and subsequently dying. Grimes, however, was unarmed, and the Michigan Appeals Court upheld the conviction on involuntary manslaughter in a 3-0 decision yesterday. Bessner will be eligible for parole in 2024 after serving 5 years in prison. And Michigan legislation yesterday approved bills aimed at making the lives of first-time homebuyers a little easier. New bills will allow for homebuyers to save for purchases in savings accounts exempt from state income tax, so long as the balance of these accounts does not exceed $50,000. Beginning next year, single filers could receive up to a $5,000 deduction each year, and joint filers could receive $10,000. According to Michigan Senator Ken Horn, the legislation is designed to help minimize the costs of down payments and closing on homes as an obstacle to ownership, and to promote the retention of workers and people in the state of Michigan. Former Governor Rick Snyder had previously vetoed similar legislation in 2018, and these bills are expected to move to Governor Whitmer's office after final legislative votes are taken. Early this morning in the northern Wisconsin village of Weston, police shot and wounded a man in an apartment where they also found a woman dead. Everest Metro police officers were sent to the apartment around 3:30 this morning following a report of a woman requesting assistance. When the officers entered the building, they heard a woman screaming and were confronted by an armed man, prompting the officers to open fire. Police then discovered the body of the woman in the apartment. According to the police department, the armed man was hospitalized in critical condition, but no officers were injured. No names have been released at this time, and the state of Wisconsin's Division of Criminal Investigation is leading the investigation into both the shooting by police and the woman's death. And don't touch that dial, because after this break, we'll be back with your national and international news.
A time-honored tradition.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States.
a new president addresses Congress to lay out a vision.
We must meet this moment as the United States of America.
And set a course for the nation. President Joe Biden address to Congress, a PBS NewsHour special.
Wednesday night at 9 on WNMU-TV.
And as of earlier this month, the Biden administration is encouraging hospitals to revert back to having doctors and nurses use a new N95 mask for every patient they see, as the emergency shortage of equipment seen at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic that allowed the Trump administration to order the rationing and reusing of N95 masks is no longer a threat. Though this proposition remains only a suggestion rather than an order, and hospitals are still allowed to sanitize and reuse their masks, steps are being made towards making the suggestion a law once again. And earlier this morning, SpaceX launched their third crew of the year, made up of 4 veteran astronauts into orbit on a recycled rocket with a recycled capsule. The rocket was launched at 5:49 this morning from the Launch Complex 39A of the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sending its crew of 1 Japanese, 1 French, and 2 American astronauts off on their 23-hour journey to the International Space Station. The crew will spend 6 months aboard the ISS before returning to Earth, which will mark the first ever successful space mission made on a recycled rocket.
Just 3 months ahead of the opening of the postponed Tokyo Olympics, the city of Tokyo and Japan's second-largest metropolitan area of Osaka have been placed under emergency orders aimed at getting surging COVID-19 numbers under control. The measures are intended to limit travel and keep people out of public places. Japan's third state of emergency includes shutdown orders for bars, department stores, malls, theme parks, theaters, and museums. Universities are also being asked to return to online classes. And the search for a missing Indonesian submarine is growing frantic as only hours remain in the ship's oxygen supply. Indonesia's KRI Nanggala 402 sub went missing during a training dive earlier this week. 24 Indonesian ships and a patrol plane were mobilized for the search earlier today, with an American reconnaissance plane and 2 Australian ships set to join in the search efforts for the submarine. The cause of the submarine's disappearance is still uncertain, and it's estimated that the ship will run out of oxygen by early tomorrow morning. And as President Joe Biden wraps up a virtual 2-day Leaders Climate Summit being held to underscore the urgency of stronger climate action. Throughout the summit, the Biden administration has been stressing tackling the climate crisis and creating jobs going hand in hand, while some Republicans see the president's new climate change goals as harmful to U.S. workers. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
President Biden is making a push for a green economy on day 2 of his climate summit with world leaders.
When we invest in climate resilience and infrastructure, we create opportunities for everyone.
Ahead of President Biden's remarks, the Department of Energy announced more than $100 million for new projects aimed at helping workers in hard-hit coal and power plant communities.
As we transition to a clean energy future, we must ensure that workers who have thrived in yesterday's and today's industries have as bright a tomorrow in the new industries.
But some Republicans have insisted those plans could harm communities that still depend on the fossil fuel industry, and also argue significant emissions reductions cannot occur without cooperation from the world's biggest polluters.
Democrats' zeal for imposing costly environmental agendas on our own country is not something our biggest foreign competitors seem to share.
President Biden has signaled the U.S. would work with adversaries like Russia to tackle the climate crisis.
It makes overwhelming sense, as much as the president of Russia and I disagree, that 2 big nations can cooperate.
While some of the world's largest polluters, including Russia, China, and India, participated in the summit and talked about goals, they did not set new specific reductions targets. President Biden committed the U.S. to cutting its greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And it began as a quick cleanup job, but morphed into a 1.5 years of backbreaking work. One man's mission has become an inspiration. CBS's Jonathan Violetti has more on this inspiring story.
Edgar McGregor set out to clean up his popular hiking trail in Southern California, documenting his good deed on social media.
Wednesday, April 7th. I wanted to clean up as much trash as I could find.
He thought it would only take a few sunny days. He could not have been more wrong.
116 degrees Fahrenheit. Thursday, December 26th.
how much trash have you picked up here?
I would say it's about 12 to 15,000 pounds of trash.
So much trash, at times his bucket wasn't enough.
I filled an entire dumpster of trash over the last 3 hours.
As his haul got bigger, so did his reach. Those who, inspired by him, grabbed their own buckets.
I can inspire people around the world, in Australia, Norway, and India, wherever, to clean up their parks.
McGregor doesn't get paid to pick up after litter bugs, though he did one time find $5.
Got some bottle caps.
After 589 consecutive days, this video.
The park is finally clean. I've done it, guys.
Millions have seen it. That's a lot of new buckets on the trail. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And don't touch that dial, because after this break, Joe will have your weather for the weekend and Devontae will have your sports update. Stay tuned.
Coming up on the next Song of the Mountains. Lively performances where old tradition meets new, here on Song of the Mountains.
Tonight at 10 on WNMU-TV.
Good afternoon, I am Joseph Sigourney here with your weather update. As you can see behind us, it's a little cloudy, but still a pretty nice day. Moving into current conditions, it is currently 54 degrees with winds southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and the barometric pressure is 29.94 inches and falling. Tonight, it'll be cloudy with a low of 38 and winds southwest at 8 miles per hour. And tomorrow, it'll be cloudy with a bit of rain, high of 57 degrees and winds north-northwest at 18 miles per hour. Looking around the UP in Sault Ste. Marie, it's the warmest at 64. Manistee and Escanaba are both 57 and 59 in Menominee. Over in Iron Mountain, it is 57 as well. Ironwood, 51. Up in Houghton, 54, as is the same back here in Marquette. Looking at our week coming ahead, on Sunday it'll be a high of 34, a little chilly with a low of 29, partly cloudy. Monday, a high of 45 and a low of 43 with some rain and snow mixed. And Tuesday it'll be a high of 53, a little bit warmer, and a low of 36 with some partly cloudy skies. And now off to Devontae with his last sports update.
Thanks, Joe. And yes, you heard that right. For the last time, we'll be taking you through our sports update. Looking at some NMU Wildcats updates, we have your lacrosse team closing out their season this weekend with a road trip against Davenport. The first game will be tonight starting at 5:30. The women will close out their season Sunday afternoon with their game starting at noon. The men's soccer team will be competing in the GLIAC Conference Tournament as they take on Davenport in the quarterfinals. The game will be played on Sunday the 25th right here in Marquette starting at 1 p.m. Lastly, relating to our Wildcat athletes, junior Caroline Hallinan of the women's soccer team was named GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week. Hallinan recorded 3 goals over the week as well as 1 assist. This is the first Offensive Player of the Week award for the team this year. After last year's all-virtual NFL draft due to the ongoing global pandemic, which forced the players to celebrate in their own home while their picks were read virtually, the NFL is ready to return to a more normal draft this year. The universally loved NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has been fully vaccinated and now can once again stand on live TV in front of a condensed number of fans and be routinely booed as he reads the draft picks. The Commissioner was also given the green light to hug, high five, and shake hands with upcoming players in the draft if they choose so. The draft will be held in Cleveland this year, with the first round of the 3-day event will begin at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Well, that's all the time we have today in Public Eye News, and I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone down here for the last 2 years, and my only regret is that I didn't come down here earlier and get involved. Over to Max.
Yeah, I've been down here this is my 4th year down here. I checked today, this is my 158th show in front of the camera, and my final one at that, in addition to all the ones I've been behind the camera for. So I've been thinking all week about what to say here, and all I can really come up with is thank you. I want to thank all the staff down here at WNMU-TV for supporting me all these years. I'd like to thank all my wonderful colleagues down here at Penn, some of whom have grown to become my closest friends over these years. And I'd like to thank all of you at home for tuning in and watching us all these years. I've done a lot of growing up in front of and behind these cameras, and I'm not just referring to my hair. So with that, that's all the time we have for you today on Public Eye News. For one last time, I'm Max Stevens.
And I'm Devontae Stein, and thank you, and goodbye.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.